Welcome to Dreamland, a program dedicated to an examination of areas in the human experience not easily nor neatly put in a box. Things seen at the edge of vision, awakening a part of the mind as yet not mapped, and yet things every bit as real as the air we breathe but don't see. This is Dreamland.
And it will be a particularly good example of that this night. Linda Moulton Howe will be here in a moment, of course, this time at a remote location, I think down in Alabama someplace. And she'll be talking about some sightings, remarkable sightings. Synchronous type sightings, I guess, the word is synchronicity. And it occurred because there was a conference going on down in Gulf Breeze, and just about everybody I know was down there, who's anybody. And naturally, they had a sighting. So you're going to be hearing about it shortly. Then, following Linda this evening, we will have a remarkable author, Mark Smith, who has written a book called Auras, See Them in Only 60 Seconds. And he's not kidding. He will actually teach you how to see auras. Now, this is not with a camera. And I was all set to put links up showing aura pictures from a camera, but he said, oh, no, I don't believe in that baloney. Instead, he will teach you how to see auras. So that link is not up. Instead, his is. That is what is ahead tonight on Dreamland. We'll talk a lot about auras, and I've always wanted to do a show on this, and we really never have. So this will be tonight. Do you believe in coincidences, synchronicity? Well, as I said, I got a call from Whitley Strieber. And he said, my God, this conference was going on. I was sitting in a restaurant, and people started saying, look, somebody, in fact, ran out with a camcorder, so they got actual camcorder footage of this sighting, whatever it was, and here to tell us about it, with witnesses, I might add, is our science reporter, our reporter on environmental matters, our Dreamland reporter every week, Emmy Award-winning documentary producer, and author of a brand new book which has just been born. By the way, we'll tell you about that, the first chapter of which documents arts. Here is Linda Moulton Howe. Hi, Linda.
Yes, it does, and I think, Art, that one of the facts about that first section on the bismuth magnesium layered material for everybody to keep in mind is it is almost 2 years. Well, it is 2 years. And to date, no one has come forward anywhere able to make the material that matches or to explain what it is or what its function.
And all of that is technically, carefully, painstakingly documented in your new book.
Yes, thank you. And if we continue to learn anything more about that, Art, from having this now out there in the world, and somebody comes forward with more information about bismuth magnesium, I'd sure welcome it, and we'll put it on Coast and Dreamland. Well, I was in Mobile, Alabama earlier today, Art, but now I am back tonight in Gulf Breeze.
Oh, my.
Yeah, where dozens of residents since 1987 have seen, photographed, and videotaped unidentified aerial objects at night and in the daytime, and you were just talking about one during this conference. Here I spoke about the growing number of eyewitnesses in military intelligence and civilian communities who have had close encounters with craft and entities that the government insiders themselves call extraterrestrial biological entities, and they make no bones about it, and they don't try to qualify it. They say they are there, and that's what they call them. Yesterday at lunchtime, during the conference, exactly as you were saying, 3 people said that they saw a silver cigar-shaped object without wings move rapidly across the sky and disappear. 2 of those eyewitnesses had to leave this morning. The other, who has the videotape, had to leave this afternoon, but I talked to him about getting that videotape to you so that you could put it on the website.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and so what I think I'll do is I'll do the separate interview with him that can go with the videotape for next week, and tonight I have 2 other residents who have seen multiple objects here just this month, and both in the daylight and at night, lens-shaped silver craft close enough to see the shape very clearly, and a round disc at close sighting. But before we go into that, because something else important surfaced while I was down here from one of the residents, and that is a very distressing newspaper headline from the Fort Myers Beach area, only about 30 minutes from where we're sitting right now tonight.
Mm-hmm.
The headline is "A Fish Kill Mystery. Microorganisms suspected in outbreaks from Florida to South America." This is now new. Everybody has heard me report probably half a dozen times the last year about Pfiesteria. This is probably related, and I want you to hear an excerpt from this very long, huge article from the paper because they've got serious problems here.
All right.
Quote, "A weird new fish disease that is causing a grotesque wasting away of fish. Your Stewart is only the latest in a string of unexplained fish kills stretching from Florida to South America. A suspect in this latest outbreak is a microscopic life form that may be a close cousin of the chameleon-like single-cell animal that has been called Pfiesteria."
Yep, bingo.
Yes, and we know Pfiesteria has killed millions and millions of fish from Maryland to North Carolina.
Linda, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago I mentioned to you that I was hearing about this new organism that was somehow related to Pfiesteria, and I mentioned that to you.
That's right, and then all of a sudden I'm here and look at what is being reported on the front page of the Sun Sentinel on Thursday.
Wow.
And it goes on to say that this issue, they're confused. The scientists are confused because last summer I also reported about the dying coral and the dying beautiful what they call those beautiful colored angelfish that are off some of the Pompano Beach areas.
Mm-hmm.
That has continued to be a problem of fish kills. They don't know if it's one and the same organism, but right now what they're describing is that in these incidents now, the fish turn up with ugly sores that are red like a skinned knee. Though the ones in the latest outbreak are also white, rotting with ulcerated lesions. And that's what happened to those ornamental fish. They had these terrible lesions on their body that were white-gray. Now, this is a quote from a Florida Department of Environmental Protection spokesman. He said, "We are seeing more and more fish with lesions." This is now, Art. This isn't last summer. This is now, and this is March of 1998.
That's true.
The newspaper says while toxic dinoflagellates have been around for a long time, people are now doing something that encourages their growth beyond natural limits. Could sewage and similar pollution be behind this? Some researchers think so. Perhaps the microscopic bugs are like roaches. They've been around forever, but their population explodes when food is left around in the form of pesticides and in fertilizers. Wade Iock of Stewart, one of the first to report the Indian River fish disease, thinks that the problem is related to pollution. Here is his quote, "Our river is so sick that it may never recover unless something is done right now." This is in the early spring where we really haven't had news reports like this until much later in the summer. I hope this is not a harbinger that 98 could be worse.
I hope not too, Linda, but I have a sagging feeling it's going to be.
And Dr. Burkholder told me she's worried too because of the climactic because El Nino has been warmer.
Yes.
Well, I'll keep track of that, and in the meantime, let's switch back to what has been in the skies here. And I have with me Don Rash of Gulf Breeze, who works for Tallahassee Tool Company. He saw a lens-shaped craft March 2nd, and then on the 20th, he and his wife Cindy had a dramatic twilight sighting. And that was just this past Friday while they were driving over one of these beautiful bridges here. They are with us tonight to talk about what they saw with their own eyes, close up and personal. And I'm going to start with Don Rash and his sighting on March 2nd. Don, tell me, where were you at exactly that time when you left in your car?
Well, first of all, hi, Linda, and hi, Art.
Hi there, Don.
I had dropped my daughter off to work at lunchtime, and she works out here on Santa Rosa Island or Pensacola Beach. I live in Goffreys, which is a peninsula, or at the end of a peninsula, just across a bridge, Bob Sykes Bridge. I was returning home, and I looked up into the sky, and it was beautiful. There was no clouds, just a crystal clear sky. And all of a sudden, I see a lens-shaped silver object come out of nowhere, travel from right to left, tilt to its side, and then before you know it, just bingo, it was gone. Now, meanwhile, I'm driving. I looked around in the sky, and again, no clouds, nothing, no trace. It was remarkable. It gave me the creeps a little bit, I should say.
And when you were talking to me about if you put your arm out at arm's length distance and you compared the size of that, what you were seeing, you compared that to the size of a quarter.
Yes.
That is a pretty large-sized object.
Indeed. It was striking. I mean, you couldn't miss it. It was just it was phenomenal to see it and the way it just moved across the sky and tilted to its side.
Don, could you estimate how long it took to get from one, where you picked it up, to the other side of the sky? How quickly did that occur?
Probably 10 seconds.
10 seconds.
So it was lengthy.
And in those 10 seconds, explain that shape, which was very interesting.
It was, like a lens shape, maybe an eye, pointed on either side, thick in the middle, traveling across the sky. I couldn't hear a thing, didn't see anything else, no airplanes, no clouds, birds. Tilted to its side, right up onto its axis, and remained at that position for a few seconds.
So, in other words, it was for a moment or a few seconds stable,
yes.
As in hovering.
Well, it was stable in the fact that it could have been traveling away from me without my realizing it.
Horizontal.
Yes.
It was horizontal, and then it flipped up vertical.
Vertically.
Is that the way people describe that? And when it went up vertical, bang, it disappeared.
Okay. That is a remarkable sighting, all right, Don. You're a resident of Gulf Breeze?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any idea, I know it's a question you really can't answer, but Gulf Breeze seems to be the hot spot. Any thoughts on why?
Well, I think it might be an exit on an interterrestrial highway. Gulf Breeze to the left.
Very interesting speculation, actually.
I know, being here, Art, that we are in a watery area that is just surrounded by all kinds of Navy and military operations in this entire Pensacola Gulf Breeze area, and it seems that military areas have always drawn this phenomena for whatever the reason.
Well, actually, even if you want to imagine, Linda, that it might be some sort of dimensional vehicle,
right.
His point is well taken, that there could be natural entry and exit points for such things. It's within reason.
It's true, that's true. And because there's been so much activity, why does it cycle? It was only on March 20th, on Friday night, 6:15, that Don is then traveling with his wife, Cindy, and they're on one of the big bridges here. And Cindy, start out with what you saw.
Well, we were coming home across the Bay Bridge, and I noticed, we were traveling south, and I noticed off to the left a big white ball of light. It seemed to be coming toward us, which in fact it was. I watched it. Don saw it too.
Oh, I would say several seconds once again. Now we're traveling south on the bridge, going the bridge speed limit at rush hour, so you're talking maybe 30 miles per hour.
Right. So we were on the bridge a few minutes, a good few minutes.
And you could see this that whole time until what, it blinked out?
Right. I was watching it, and all of a sudden, just right before my eyes, it blinked out. And I kept my eyes on the same area, and all of a sudden I started seeing a twinkling. And it got clearer because it was getting much closer to us. And finally, as we're traveling along and it's traveling toward us, it was, about 11 o'clock high, if you can imagine, like a clock.
Sure.
11 o'clock, almost 12 o'clock high. My face is up to the windshield. And I'm looking underneath it, and it's round and silver, and the lights were just fluidly going around it, blinking,
There were white lights.
Right.
Or was there any color around those lights in the middle?
No. there wasn't, I saw one here once with 3 undulating yellow lights under it and red lights going on.
But in this case, no.
But this case, there was no center lights or anything, just a silvery disc.
I'm curious, when you stood there looking at it, what did you think you were seeing?
Well, when I first saw it as when it was a big ball of light, I thought that might be a plane coming in real close.
Sure.
But then when it blinked out,
then you realized what you had.
Right,
there, yeah.
because it wasn't like there was any clouds between my eyes and it. And it just disappeared and wasn't there. And then it just started twinkling and got closer and brighter. And I don't know if we were under it or it was over us, but we were connected.
And it was definitely round, and it had these perimeter lights that seemed to be moving and shifting fluidly around it.
Right.
And there must have been, because I know that bridge, there must have been at least maybe 50, 100 cars.
Well, that had to be definitely a UFO, an unidentified flying object. I've never seen any planes like that.
Were cars slowing? Were other people seemingly seeing the same thing?
Well, I'm wondering why no one,
It's hard to tell, Art. I mean, if you ever drive down the freeway and how many people look at you, you could look at them right in through the car window and they're not looking at you.
It's
yes,
true.
And I noticed also that, it was rush hour and we were towards the end of the bridge and people were stopping up. So I think they were paying attention to the driving.
So there may be other witnesses then.
Right.
Right. But
yes.
it's just so recent they haven't come forward yet.
And I told them tonight that we would say on the air that anybody listening in the Gulf Breeze or Pensacola area who has been seeing this object to get in touch with me, and I'll give a number in a minute, but it raises this interesting question, Art. Locale after locale, why is it that people are so reluctant to report to the media or to law enforcement? And I think the answer always is that everyone is still afraid of ridicule, and yet there are these increasing eyewitness sightings both daylight and nighttime, especially here.
Plus, you call the police or something, and what are they going to do? You say, I saw the following, and what are they going to do?
You know what? When I first moved here, I saw, an unidentified flying object. I tried to report it. I called 911. They didn't know what to do with the call.
That's right.
I called the radio station. They didn't know where to put me. Somebody needs to have some telephone line to report it.
Well, there are national UFO reporting centers. We're very short on time now. And, Linda, I do want to promote your book. You've got a brand new book, just born, called Glimpses of Other Realities, High Strangeness. In it, Linda examines government cover-ups, government contact with non-human intelligence, other extraterrestrial phenomena, including Earth parts. First chapter, it's a beautiful book, gigantic. The price is $27.95. And if you would like a signed copy, a limited number of copies, signed copies, the number to get it, I guess right now, is 1-800-658-9959. Once again, that's 1-800-658-9959. Linda's brand new book. Congratulations, Linda. Now, we've got very little time, so give out your fax number.
Thank you, Art, very much. And for people listening who would have any information on any of this, please fax me at 215-491-9842. That's 215-491-9842. And Art, I'll look forward next week to talking with you more.
That's it. Thank you, Linda, and good luck with the brand new book. That's Linda Moulton Howe and Company in Florida, where an awful lot of action is going on. I'm Art Bell from the high desert near Dreamland. This is Dreamland.
First-time callers to Dreamland may reach Art Bell at area code 702-727-1222. That's area code 702-727-1222. Now, here again is Art Bell.
Once again, yes, here I am. Good morning, everybody, or good evening, as the case may be, depending on your time zone. Mark Smith is coming up shortly, and we're going to be talking about auras, and he's going to actually tell you how you can learn to see them in only 60 seconds. 1 minute. That should be interesting. The discussion about what auras are, I suspect, will take more than a minute. At any rate, that's what's coming up. It's my time of the day when the sun goes down. What if we were able to gauge our health on a day-to-day basis by what we see, as well as what we feel? Not just how we look physically in the mirror, but how we saw ourselves and how we felt about ourselves. Auras, by respected author and speaker Mark Smith, is the first book to explore these questions and show anyone how to see auras in 60 seconds or less. What exactly is an aura? Webster's dictionary defines an aura as 1, an invisible emanation or radiation. Isn't that interesting? They define it that way. Or 2, a distinctive but intangible quality that seems to surround a person or thing. More specifically, Mark Smith claims auras are the physical manifestation of the soul. He believes we are already aware of this electromagnetic energy that's responsible for the good or bad vibes, interesting 60s word, that we get from other people. The aura's brightness, color, and clarity denote various stages of peace, wellness, and happiness. Smith says science can measure it and even photograph it. And when you get good at it, you can actually see illness or disease in the aura before it manifests in the body. Mr. Smith says, quote, within our grasp, we have the ability to control our health and well-being on a day-to-day basis. Learning about the aura is one way to gauge and monitor our health on an entirely different scale. Can emotions and thoughts make us sick? Do we perhaps think ourselves into disease? The evidence, including the changes that auras successfully help us see, emphatically supports this notion. Here is Mark Smith. Mark, welcome to the program.
Hi, Art. Thanks for having me on.
It's great. Where are you, by the way?
I'm in Falls Church, Virginia.
Near the nation's capital.
Very close.
Mm-hmm. It was very, very interesting because, of course, you were scheduled one prior time on Dreamland, and I think you were at the time moving and got caught in a terrible snowstorm and all the rest of that sort of thing.
Yes.
When you were in that snowstorm, you don't know, Mark, but I searched frantically in the in the web and found some interesting aura photographs. And then when I talked to you earlier tonight, I said, are there any aura photographs on your website? We do have your website linked, by the way.
Okay, great.
People can go see it. Now, you said no. And I said, well, we could put some up. And you said no, because I don't believe that there are any cameras that can take pictures of auras. Is that correct?
Well, the Carillion photographs are the real thing. And
is that an aura?
Yeah, the aura has an electromechanical aspect to it, and that is able to be photographed since about 1936, actually.
All right, but these photographs we see, Mark, of people with great red or green or around them.
I don't want to rain on anybody's parade, but when you see a photograph of somebody, nice smiling face, and they've got this kind of fuchsia color or something swirling around,
right.
That really... that might be galvanic skin response, that might be ionization of the atmosphere, but that's not your aura.
That's not an aura.
It really isn't. And all you have to do is, once you learn how to see the aura with your own unaided eyes, this is not third eyesight. The third eye there is supposed to be between the, the two eyes and the forehead.
Right.
This is two eyesight. This is not metaphysics. It's physics.
Physics.
and you can actually see it. It's so simple. At some point tonight, I'd sure love to be able to just kind of step by step
we'll
take them through it.
Definitely go through it. But you said it's physics, your words, right?
Sure, because you can measure it. Science now is able to measure. There is an energy field outside of the human body. Granted, it's very close to, but it is not touching the human body, and it is anywhere from 0.05 volts to about, they've measured some people that do this bioenergy therapy, up to 80 volts. And
really?
Sure. There's a great healer here in Washington that I worked with, a guy named Mietek Virkus. He's a Polish emigre. In fact, he defected before the Berlin Wall came down. And, over there in the former Eastern Bloc countries in Russia, they've been using this kind of auric healing, if you will, for 40, 50 years.
But 80 volts, do you know the nature of that voltage? Has it been measured as AC or DC?
Well, at the Menninger Institute in Kansas, which is an old line, they've been around for probably 50 years also. I don't know exactly whether it's positive or negative. In fact, there's a video that I've seen with Dr. Elmer Green, who's one of the founders of this institute out there. And they formed this thing basically to try to debunk all of this stuff, 30, 40, 50 years ago. And what they've been finding is that as they bring in people who claim to have healing powers, they're finding that as they put them in a copper-lined room and they put the electrodes on them and they measure their energy, they're able to get some pretty startling results.
All right, you measure voltage against ground, unless it is some sort of static discharge. If it's an actual measurable voltage, you would measure it from the skin or near the skin to ground.
Well, they put him in a copper-lined room.
Right.
And then they put all kinds of electrodes on his head and hands.
Right.
And in the video that I saw that was taken there, you can see into the actual room through the glass, into the booth.
Yes.
And they've got the strip charts running and all that happening. And he's in there all plugged in and working on or getting ready to work on a person. And Dr. Green, he's got to be 80 years old at this point, he says, well, just tell us when you're ready and we'll run everything. Mm-hmm. So he says, ready, and everything jumps off the chart. And again, I don't know, because I don't, again, I'm not scientific enough to tell you the answer to the question you're asking. But when they interviewed Green after that, Dr. Green, he's sitting there and said, well, we invited 14 of these so-called healers in, 7 men and 7 women.
Right.
And we put them in our special, copper-lined room and plugged them in.
Right.
And we asked them to do their thing, whatever that was. And he said, we've measured some of these people throwing up to 80 volts for 2 or 3 seconds at a time. Right. And he leans forward and looks at the camera and he says, that's not possible.
Well, I don't know that. I wouldn't say that at all. As a matter of fact, I think it's been documented pretty well worldwide that yogis, for example, are able to control their own heart rate, their blood pressure. Most of their usually thought to be involuntary bodily functions can be controlled. So no, I'm not a disbeliever at all. So he came at this from a very skeptical point of view then.
Correct. And I got to tell you that I got dragged into this kicking and screaming too. I came from a kind of scientific background, from a medical viewpoint. I always thought I wanted to be a doctor, and I had learned how to see the aura 20 years ago when it was casually pointed out to me backstage in one of my other incarnations. I used to be a professional musician, and you mentioned earlier about the vibes being a 60s term.
Sure.
I got to play as an opening act for a lot of big rock groups, and in the mid to late 70s, I was doing opening acts for different members of the Grateful Dead, and
no kidding.
Yeah, I used to do all kinds of stuff, Jefferson Starship, Emmylou Harris.
Everybody understands the word vibes. I mean, you meet somebody
Sure.
and you get sort of an immediate.
Absolutely. I mean, you're aware of the aura all the time. The only thing that we've done, I guess, as we have become adults, is that we've kind of put aside this natural ability to see auras in a normal setting. Mm-hmm. I think children, they talk about children and animals being instantly attracted or repelled by certain individuals.
Absolutely.
And I think that before the age of reason, about the age of 6 or 7, I think children are very normally aware of and see auras all the time. I mean, if you think about what kids do when they come home from kindergarten the first day and, the teacher has them do their first finger painting of mommy, there's this stick figure, with blue hair. And mommy says, well, Johnny, I thought your color's better than this. Mommy has brown hair.
That's true.
No, he's blue. Whap. Don't lie to me, kid. Your color's better than that. Mm-hmm. So what happens is we end up losing this natural ability. It gets acculturated out of us or socialized out of us. I mean, it's like not considered cool.
But we I think we retain it at a subconscious level, even as adults. You meet somebody and you take an instant like or an instant dislike to them.
Absolutely.
And and that then would be a subconscious reaction to an aura.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. The only thing that was pointed out to me 20 years ago is that you can consciously see the aura really whenever you want by just involving yourself in a change of focal pattern. And once you see it, it's very much like the way they depicted on that TV show Touched by an Angel.
How is the aura related to what we think of as the soul?
If you believe, as I do, that we are spirits trapped in the material world.
I do.
Well, I don't think that
I don't know if I would use the term trapped in.
Well,
I think that we are spiritual beings that will survive death in
correct.
some manner. All right.
Well, in whatever form you choose to think of the beyond or the divine, whatever you call it, we have some spark of that in us.
Yes.
And these fleshy baggies with spines in them we call bodies, I don't think are capable in and of themselves of withholding this indwelling divine spark, if you want to call it that. And I think the soul is the encapsulament or the tabernacle, if you will, to use a religious term, for this spirit, this indwelling spirit. So it's the interface, if you will, between the three-dimensional body that we have and the indwelling divine spark. So the soul is kind of that interface that is in between. It helps us kind of maintain the spirit within the body. And I think that this soul, if you will, is visible as manifested in the aura.
Are you seeing, when you look at the aura, Mark, are you seeing, you're not really seeing the soul so much as you're, are you saying, or are you seeing some sort of emanation?
Emanation. It's a manifestation of the soul. It's the visible manifestation. It's what you can see when you learn to look for it, and it's what you can feel when you learn to touch it, if you will. That's why everyone, they talk about, not to use the word vibes again, chemistry, when people meet.
Sure.
You get a positive, a neutral, or a negative feeling from everybody you come in contact with. If you think about the term charisma, for instance, I think that is someone who consciously or even subconsciously has the ability to touch many people. They talk about somebody walking into a room and lighting it up.
Oh, yes.
I think that and anybody who's experienced charisma knows something happens. I mean, that one person is able to reach out and touch, if
yes.
you will.
Yes.
Large groups of people, and sometimes at great distances. It doesn't have to be, a handshake or a pat on the back. Some people just are able to...
they radiate it.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. When you... Let me qualify a couple things here. When you look at, if you ever have, and you see auras, Mark, when you look at a dead body, what do you see?
Very interesting. Good question. I think that the soul, again, that's why I tie it into the soul, because when the body dies, and I don't know if any of your viewers out there have ever seen a freshly dead body.
I have mostly listeners, but I suspect some of them have.
I'm sorry. I'm sitting there thinking in visual terms here.
Yes, I understand.
When you look at a dead body, it is like a wax figure. There is no anima. There is no spirit happening there at all. I had the chance, I guess is the best word I can use, to actually witness my mother die. It's been almost a year to today. I walked into the room, or I should say I tried to walk into the room, and was almost thrown back by what I saw, because I was able to see her aura literally falling apart. It was like cheesecloth. It became, holy, WHOLY.
Right.
It had just holes in it. It was starting to evaporate even as I looked at it.
Wow.
And I knew that she would be dead within the day. And I had just come back from a trip to Europe, and I didn't even know she was in the hospital. I went to the nurse, and she said, "Oh, no, she's going to be up and walking around next week. We'll do that hip surgery next week." And it was just that we punctured the lung, and we were trying to, put her under for the hip surgery. Well, we just had to postpone that for a week. And I said, "Have you looked at her?" And she said, "Yeah, we look at her all the time." I said, "No. Have you looked at her? She isn't going to be here next week. In fact, she's not going to be here this time tomorrow."
Wow.
And that's in fact what happened. She died the next day.
All right. So you were able to actually observe that in transition. And then,
Correct.
So the answer would be, with respect to a dead body, there would be no aura.
Well, everything, even inanimate objects, has an energy field around them. It's that the human energy field is so vibrant and so complex and so multifaceted, I think due to this indwelling spirit, that when it leaves, when the spirit departs, what you have is the same level of aura that you'd get off of your kitchen table. In other words, it's for all intents and purposes an inanimate, it's just a...
But there is no question about the fact that there is a change.
Oh, massive change.
All right. You mentioned Kirlian photography.
Sure.
As being able to, as being a validation of auras. Would that kind of photography, showing a living person versus a dead person, reflect the same magnitude of change that you said you would see?
Absolutely. In fact, in my book that will be coming out in June, I've got Kirlian photographs of my fingertips that were taken, and these are, Kirlian photographs where you put your fingers directly on the photographic plate.
Yes.
Okay. Not this metal thing that you put at the psychic fairs and everything. You actually put your hand into a sleeve, which then rests completely cut off from any light.
Sure.
And you touch the photographic plate. They zap you with, I think it's 37,000 volts. No amps, obviously, or you wouldn't be sitting around. But
right.
There's this kind of tingle that you get like a static shock.
Sure.
And they measure the energy field around in this case, the tips of your fingers. And then they change the plate. They didn't even take my hand out of the machine. They said, "Okay, now do your breathing exercise, your meditative breathing exercise." Mm-hmm. I did 30 seconds worth of deep breathing and had the test redone immediately. And it's like triple the size of light emanations, perfect halos around the tips of the fingers.
Which you would interpret as a greater spiritual radiation.
Increase of energy that obviously came from getting much more in tune with the body, getting that conduit open. And that's what happens when you get into a spiritual or a meditative mode. You allow more energy to flow through you with less resistance. And this is able to be seen by this Kirlian photograph.
That's absolutely remarkable. All right, hold it right there. Again, Mark Smith's book is Auras. See them in only 60 seconds. And yes, we will tell you how to do that. We will instruct you. But what I've heard so far sounds entirely credible with respect to what I know about what research has been done. So, more about Auras, more Dreamland coming up shortly. I'm Art Bell from the high desert near Dreamland, Area 51. This is Dreamland.
To talk with Art Bell on Dreamland from the Kingdom of Nye. From east of the Rockies, dial 1-800-825-5033. West of the Rockies, including Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, and New Mexico, 1-800-618-8255. If you're a first-time caller to Dreamland, reach Art at area code 702-727-1222. This is Dreamland with Art Bell.
It is, and here I am once again. My guest is Mark Smith, and we're talking about auras. It is, at this point, a remarkably scientific discussion. In other words, we know that there are certain energies, this has now been well documented, that emanate from the body. You will find aura in the dictionary as an invisible emanation or radiation. You will find the second definition to be a distinctive but intangible quality that seems to surround a person or thing. And we are discussing what it is. Mark believes it is an extension or emanation of the soul, your soul. And surely, as he pointed out, and nearly everybody else, including me, believes, we are much more than a bag of water and various chemicals. There is no question in my mind about that. I have questions about other aspects of what it all means, but I firmly believe that we are more than our physical, chemical composition. And I think there would not be a lot of argument about that. Beyond that, there's lots of arguments. But one seeming proof of this is auras. So it is absolutely fascinating. His book, by the way, is Auras. Actually, you can see them in only 60 seconds. And we will tell you how to do that. And we will take phone calls as we develop the evening. Well, all right, Mark Smith is my guest. Auras, see them in only 60 seconds is his book. Yes, we will tell you how to get it. Yes, we do have a link to his website on my website, so simply go to www.artbell.com. Scroll down till you see the name Mark Smith. Click on that, and you will zip over to his website. Now, Mark, welcome back. I would like to ask you the following. It is claimed that many things can be discerned by viewing an aura. The person's mental or physical state and condition, their emotional state and condition, and probably a whole list of things that I'm sure you could give me that I'm not aware of. And here's what I imagine. Tell me if I'm right or wrong, or maybe you don't even know, but I can only imagine that people began seeing auras, or Kirlian photography was done, and that, in effect, they back-engineered the knowledge. In other words, you look at an aura, you are basically aware of a person's physical or emotional condition, and you make note. And they're happy, the aura is in one configuration. They're unhappy, it's in another. And so that's the way I could imagine you would come up with how to read an aura. You sort of back-engineer it. Is that how it was done?
That's actually very accurate. The interesting thing as far as the colors that you see, that you can rely on for literally hundreds of years of what the so-called the mystics, or the swamis, whatever you call it, over in the eastern, part of the world, over in Asia,
yes,
where they've been doing this for hundreds, if not thousands of years. They kind of, over the years, have been able to tell us that the colors actually relate to certain parts of the body. And through all these years of experimentation and knowledge gained by just having done it, we pretty much know that the colors represent certain vibrational rates. I mean, obviously, what is color, but it's vibration that our eyes pick up.
Absolutely.
The same way that our ears pick up vibration, musical notes. There's actually a corollary between the color and a certain area of the body that, of course, the Indians call it chakras. And for your listeners who aren't used to that term, it literally means, in Sanskrit, the word chakra means spinning wheel. And the mystics claim that they can see the actual areas, the vortices, the vortexes on the body that literally vibrate and spin in a particular way. But what I'm trying to do is kind of demystify this and demythologize it, if you will, and get it away from the clairvoyant aspect of things, and get it away from metaphysics, because it's not clairvoyance, it's just voyance. It's not metaphysics, it's just physics. You can actually see on the body, for instance, if someone has a chronic pain or some kind of a debilitating illness, let's say they've got a hip problem.
Okay.
If you look at them, once you get used to seeing the energy field, you'll see a reddish ball, kind of almost like a flashing light, if you will, coming out in a half-moon shape from the side of the hip, for instance, that has the problem. So, you can see where there is illness in the body. If you've got a general kind of a systemic problem, the aura tends to take on a grayish or maybe a kind of a putrid grayish-green color, and it will look depleted. I mean, you will look as if it's almost like the color of phlegm. And it's gotten to the point where when I teach this, as I do around the world now, I've been pretty much a lot of different places. The book's out, and they tell me, Llewellyn tells me it's in 12 languages. They just shipped me my first copy in Indonesian, for instance.
Well, I like your approach, which is scientific rather than guru-ish.
Right.
Now, on the other hand, the people who usually can see these things are the ones who claim to be psychically attuned, claim to be gurus, and in fact that is reasonable to understand that they are the ones because they are more spiritually in tune. So it makes sense that they would see it, and thereby the whole thing grows a reputation of being sort of new agey.
Well, again, for hundreds at least, if not thousands of years, they've been doing it in India, China, Tibet, all those, Oriental type places. And in the West, we have relied so much on the machine, I guess, to do all the work for us that I'm sure before there was any media at all, a couple of thousand years ago, people were sitting around in the grass huts, and as, excuse the pun, an enlightened person walked by.
Sure.
One's ribbing the other going, hey, get a load of the aura on that one.
Well, look, America has taken a lot of humanity out of medicine, period. There's no question about it.
Oh, gosh. It's incredible. That's basically what my next book is about, is trying to get some of the humanity back into it. Although I gotta give them credit. You hit them over the head with a 2x4 often enough, and they start to pay attention. Right here where I'm calling from, Falls Church, Virginia, I'm right next door to the National Institutes of Health in Bethesda, Maryland. That's your right. Tax dollars at work.
Yep.
A lot of mainline medical schools and even medical government institutions have devoted millions of dollars in just the last couple of years to research these alternative medical therapies. And it's amazing what they're finding. For instance, here's, your tax dollars at work at the National Institutes of Health Alternative Medical Center. They have found that if you pray, and for want of a better term, but if you send this loving energy, if you will, to Petri dishes filled with slime mold. The slime mold that gets prayed for, or loved, if you will, grows 3 to 4 times faster than Petri dishes that don't get prayed for.
Wow, that's amazing.
So something is definitely happening, and it is, again, it's a measurable effect. Some of your listeners may remember or know about the kind of the landmark study that was done out in San Francisco General Hospital in 1986, where they had heart patients. They had 24 of them, 12 of them, and nobody even knew this test was going on. It was a scientifically run, double-blind study. They had a prayer group, I believe it was in New York City, of a dozen people,
right,
from different faiths and healing traditions, praying for 12 of those heart patients. And the 12 who did not get prayed for, they had 2 deaths, 4 secondary onsets of the same heart disease, and everyone got better at a regular or a slow rate of recovery. Of the 12 who got prayed for, nobody died. There was no secondary onset, and they got better about twice to 3 times quicker than the group that did not get prayed for.
Well, that is a small statistical sample, of course, but it's a good double-blind test. And let me tell you something, Mark, because I know it's true. I have a very, very good personal close friend named Daniel Brinkley. You probably know.
I know Daniel real well.
You know Daniel. All right, well, Daniel, I flew back to see Daniel because I thought he was dying. As a matter of fact, he thought he was dying.
Right.
And he asked for people's prayers to send the light to him.
Right.
And millions prayed. And I talked to Daniel's doctor, who said he should have been dead.
Sure.
Absolutely should have died. And it was a miracle, Mark. I watched it happen. Now, I don't know. You could probably, again, it's a small statistical sample, but I don't doubt it for a second. The power of prayer, the power of whatever it is.
Exactly. You know, you say the word prayer and it scares some people off.
I know.
But
not me.
No, me neither. I can tell you, I have lived through it myself just the same way you're describing it with Daniel. There is no question that something is definitely going on out there. And it literally doesn't matter whether you're in the next room or you're all the way around the globe. That energy gets there to the person just like a letter sent from a lover. It's just the most amazing thing. And physicists hate this. It's what they call a non-local event.
I know they do.
How does the energy or the mass get from one place to another?
I don't know.
With no visible means of support.
I don't know. I have no idea, but I mean, you're absolutely right. And I'll tell you this. If I was dying, that's what I would, that's what I'd go for.
Absolutely.
That's what I would want. And so that tells you how strongly I believe it. Now, I will get a lot of angry faxes that will say, why do you dodge around it? Why don't you talk about it? It's the power of God. Maybe it is. That's where I begin to ask questions. I don't know. It's a power. People who are very strong religious types with great faith in the God of the Bible, as exactly as written in the Bible, will demand that you say that power comes from there. I can't respond to that. Can you?
Well, Art, the only thing I can tell you is that every religion, and I think religions are great, don't get me wrong, but every religion is man's cultural attempt in that particular culture. I don't care whether it's in the Middle East or in Asia or in, the Bible Belt down south. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants to put God in a bottle and put that bottle on their altar in their church. I got to tell you, I studied to be a priest. I had a near-death at birth experience, which I talk about in the book. In fact, that's how I know Daniel Brinkley. That's how I know Raymond Moody. Dr. Moody wrote the foreword to this book, and I met him, probably 10 years ago now, down in Huntsville, Alabama, where I still have a house.
Right.
And he basically helped me understand that these things that I had I've had 7, near-death or out-of-body experiences. I had one at birth. In fact, that's how I ended up, getting trotted out on all the TV shows.
Now, I'd like to ask you a question before you go forward. You said near-death or out-of-body. Is it your view, and I've interviewed lots of out-of-body type guests, experts in the field, and lots of NDE experiencers.
Right.
Do you think that when you travel astrally, out-of-body, it is the same realm in which you move to when you have a near-death experience?
I think that it can be. I think that when you have the near-death experience, the fact that it is a trauma-induced movement happens to push you further faster than probably 80% or more of the people who just have a spontaneous out-of-body experience. If I had not had a near-death experience as well as 7 spontaneous out-of-body experiences, I would want to say that it's the same thing. It's really not, but it's very similar. And on the last spontaneous out-of-body experience, the 7th one, if you will, that I had when I was 21 years old. They stopped abruptly after 21 for some reason. But I had one near death at birth, and then 5th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, 12th grade, and then in college. And all of these things having been brought up in a strict Catholic background, this is what I thought the nuns meant when they said, "You boys and girls will know when you have a vocation for the priesthood or, become nuns." I thought this is what they meant when they said, this is a vocation.
You thought it was a calling?
Sure, because, these are such other capital O experiences that they kind of rock your boat to such a degree.
Sure.
That it wasn't until Ray Moody's book came out that literally, he tagged it, near that he's the father of the NDE. He calls them near-death experiences.
Yes.
And when I read that, I said, oh my gosh, this is what I've had. This is not a call to the priesthood. So after spending 5.5 years as a candidate to become a Jesuit priest, I realized that this was not what I was truly being called to do, that I'd had an other capital O kind of experience, which we now call near-death experience and out-of-body. But the last out-of-body that I had was actually witnessed by my roommate in college.
Oh.
And he was a complete disbeliever, agnostic, if not in fact atheist. And I think that they put us together as roommates because we used to argue philosophy and theology points till wee hours in the morning.
Yes.
And it was during one of those conversations that all of a sudden I went out. I saw myself, looking. It was the typical out-of-body experience,
In the middle of a conversation?
Yep. And
wow.
He thought I had died. And it was only when he started screaming at me that I came back, because this time not only did I hover at the top of the room, and then I went through the ceiling, through the building, out of the planet, out of the solar system, and then all of a sudden, the same thing that happens when you have the near-death experience happen, the focus no longer is a downward-looking focus. It is an upward and outward focus toward the light. And that was the time, it was kind of like the perfect circle for me, because I'd had the initial experience toward the light, and then this last spontaneous out-of-body, I went back to the light again. And it's just the most warm, wonderful, phenomenal experience you can imagine. And it's so reassuring because it in no uncertain terms, reminds us that we are all, sparks from the divine, that we all have this indwelling divine thing with us. And when you come back from those kind of experiences, and Dr. Moody says this too, like 99% of the people that have these experiences, denominational religion ceases to become so important to them anymore, but their spirituality content or the spirituality aspect of their life goes up exponentially. So for all of those people that send you the nasty faxes,
that's all right. I'm used to it. Mark, hold on. We're at the bottom of the hour here, and we'll break. And I think what I'm hearing is going down very easily indeed. Mark Smith is my guest, and when we come back, we will indeed tell you how you can see auras with your own eyes in about 1 minute. I'm looking forward to this myself. From an area near Dreamland, this is Dreamland.
Talk with Art Bell on Dreamland from the Kingdom of Nye. East of the Rockies, dial 1-800-825-5033. West of the Rockies, 1-800-618-8255, including Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, and New Mexico. First-time callers may reach Art at area code 702-727-1222. Or call Art on the wildcard line at area code 702-727-1295. Now again, here's Art Bell.
Once again, here I am, and my guest, of course, Mark Smith. Very, very interesting program on auras and more, I guess we ought to say. His book is Auras, See Them in Only 60 Seconds, and we'll pick up on that exact book title in a moment. All right, if you will get a piece of paper and a pencil ready, we will tell you shortly how to get this book, Auras, See Them in Only 60 Seconds, by Mark Smith, my guest. I've wanted to kind of lay the groundwork for what you're going to hear, and I think we have just about done that. However, Mark, before I ask you how we actually see auras, I've got two faxes here, and I would like you to react to both of them. I'm curious how you're going to react. One is from an atheist in Louisiana named Mark. And he says, Art, oh, come on. The power of prayer? Prayer is for the feeble-minded. All you need to do is believe in yourself. Now, that's, in a lot of ways, a fairly challenging fax to react to. On the one hand, it's easy to react and say, he's out of his mind with regard to the power of prayer or prayer at all. But he's not exactly saying that. He's saying it doesn't have a thing to do with God. All you need to do, he says, is believe in yourself. You want to go out on a limb and agree or disagree with that?
Well, he's partly right. First of all, he's got a great first name. And I got to say that one of the things that you learn early on in doing any kind of energy work, whether you want to call it, whatever name you want to put on it, is you need to open up your own energy centers, if you will. I mean, all the answers are within us. We don't have to go outside to find them. But there is a connection that I really can't stress strongly enough, and this is where I would say you might not be exactly on the money, and that is that there is definitely a connection cosmically that we all have, and we are all interlinked, if you will, and tied into this, for want of a better word. You said earlier, the love of God, or the divine spark, or the great unison, whatever, the unity theory. I don't know how you can ever prove the existence of this or disprove it, but I will tell you that I have never met anyone who's had a near-death experience who does not believe that we all have some of the divine spark within us.
That having been said, it's worth noting here that a certain percentage of NDE experiencers, probably larger than reported or known publicly, have come back and said they had a terrible, hellish experience.
The ones that I've talked to that have had that experience basically found that they had a problem not getting close enough to the light. They were withheld from getting all the way to it, or they had a terrible experience because they were turned back, so to speak, and sent away. One lady that I know that had tried to commit suicide as a young child, when she had her near-death experience during a suicide attempt, she was kind of put in the penalty box, if you will, and said, don't do that. You're not supposed to, you may get to pick the time you come in, but you don't get to pick the time you leave. And I gotta say that of all the people I've talked to that have had negative experiences about it, I don't know that I've ever met one or talked to one that's talked about hell in the sense that we kind of talk about hell in Western religion. It's more a sense of they could not get to the love. They couldn't get to the light. They were in some way incapacitated from experiencing that love and that warmth.
Well, Danyan and others have said that during an NDE, it is not unusual, or maybe it is even usual, to experience a full life review.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, in some cases, that could certainly be hellish.
Yes. And I think he's a perfect example. His first NDE, before he'd done, quote, anything worth a damn in his life, was that he did get to experience all of the pain and the suffering that he had inflicted on other people. And it is amazing that they talk about it's a cliche, your life passes,
before your eyes.
Yes. And you get to see both positive and negative things. And if you have led a, quote, hellish life, when that happens to you, you get to relive it in excruciating detail.
Well, I have some of that to do, and I guess we all do. Here's the second fact that I would like you to react to. It's by an author of a book himself. His name is Dick. He says, as to humans, the aura is a combination of a living person's subtle energy fields, the dominant one being the etheric energy. Each of the energy centers or chakras project an energy field. The energy fields from the chakras intertwine with the lower chakras having a lower energy field strength and the higher chakras having a higher field strength. We humans walk around in our auras, but we are generally unaware of it. What I do is to amplify auras to allow persons to be aware that they are more than their physical body. I do this by placing my hands beside their heads and move them in and out until I connect with their etheric field, usually a half to 1 inch from the head. When this occurs, my crown chakra opens and energy flows in from the cosmos and down my arms, resonating their aura to a higher frequency and field strength.
Great.
Under the influence of, get this now, psychoactive substances, I see auras on humans, plants, animals, and rocks. I amplify my aura with crystals, gemstones, and pure gold. I've studied with several energy healers. Now, that begins to sound a little new agey to me, and he brings up psychoactive drugs. Would you care to comment on psychoactive substances? Now, that's a very controversial thing to ask you to comment on, I know.
Well, gosh, we could spend the whole show just talking about that, but I will say that when I first, was told, in fact, it was Jerry Garcia, Grateful Dead, was like, hey, I can show you how to see an aura. I'm like, yeah, what are you on? And he said, no, I'm serious, and he just grabbed a roadie and grabbed him and put him up against the wall, and we were looking at him, and I was like, what am I on? I thought I was, absolutely, straight as an arrow here. And I got to say, I come from, a very conservative background. Obviously, I studied to be a priest, and my whole family's, in the military-industrial complex there somewhere. I'm the white sheep in the family. I'm the only one who doesn't have a polygraph clearance. But the bottom line is, you do not need to have any drug to see the aura, and I think that what the drugs do is maybe allow you artificially to experience things that hopefully you can, for those people who do that type of thing, that they can then learn how to do without the use of the drugs. But I am a strong champion of don't go there.
Don't do drugs, but you do acknowledge that for some people, there may be a channel there.
Yes. No question.
I interviewed last week Terrence McKenna. You know that?
Okay, yes.
And I took a lot of heat for that, but that's okay. Terrence is a very, very interesting individual who, according to the amount of drugs, psychoactive drugs he's taken in his lifetime, should be by now a total vegetable, but he is quite the opposite. He's extremely articulate. Now, and that doesn't mean that I'm saying that people ought to take drugs either. It just means that I'm not sure that we are told the total truth about drugs in general. A lot of drugs are terrible for you, but maybe others aren't so terrible.
Well, all I know is that many people that I know and grew up with, I was a little bit too young to really have lived through the 60s. I was really more a child of the 70s, if you will. But same thing. I know a lot of people that should have been dead many times over.
Sure.
And are actually pretty enlightened individuals. I mean, of course, there's the Timothy Leary tie-in, and I guess that's, he was a brilliant guy and used drugs, particularly LSD, to get to certain places that, and he said himself, it would be wonderful if we could get there without the use of these drugs, but once you get there, you realize there's a whole nother realm, a whole nother series of possibilities that you can explore, that the human mind and psyche are capable of getting into. And I don't discount anybody's experience, whether it's through prayer or drugs or anything.
Whatever.
Else. Exactly. But I really, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get everybody, and I mean everybody, straight arrow people, to be able to see this so-called, metaphysical or clairvoyant event.
All right, let's cover it then. Let's do it. Your book obviously is going to give all of this to people in great detail.
Right.
But if I were to simply ask you, all right, fine, you say you can teach somebody to see an aura in 60 seconds, that's 1 minute. How do you do that?
Do it all the time.
All right.
Okay, for those of you listening at home, kids, try this at home. Get someone that you want to look at, or you can do this in the mirror. You can look at yourself in the mirror and see your own aura.
Okay.
But it's probably a little bit easier when you're first starting. Get someone to stand about 18 inches in front of a white or at least a neutral colored wall.
Right.
Get them to breathe deeply, rock gently from side to side. I'll explain why you do that in a minute, but get them to rock gently from side to side, and you, the viewer, stand at least 8 to 10 feet away from them.
Okay.
And don't look at them. Look past the perimeter of their body at the white wall behind them. And you want to be really focusing on that wall. Look at the texture of the paint on that wall or the wallpaper, and be very aware of where their body stops and the air begins. And as you continue to stare at the wall for 20 seconds, 30 seconds, you will start to notice that there is not a dark shadow around them, a light shadow. There is a luminous area, anywhere from 1/4 of an inch to an inch. That's the etheric aura that the second facts person talked about. But get that etheric aura in your eye, because you want to look at it. You want to look past it, not at it. So cut them out like a 2-dimensional cardboard figure. Don't look at them. Look past them, where their body stops.
It's a sort of use of peripheral vision.
Correct. Very similar.
Yeah, okay.
Very similar.
Okay.
It's a focal length change. You're not looking at it. You're looking past it. When you first start to see it, though, you listeners/viewers will notice that it will go away. And the reason is because you have focused back on the foreground. It's like, oh my gosh, there's something. And you try to focus on it. The secret here is don't look at the figure. Continue to let your eyes drift past the outline of the body.
Okay.
Continue to focus on the wall. And you'll notice that as the person rocks gently from side to side, you'll notice that this white or silver, or you might even see yellow or gold, envelope or halo moves with them. This is not retina burn. This is not afterglow. This energy field is visible, and it moves and stays right with the body as they move back and forth. That's why I have you rock. And if you think about every picture in every religion, how do they depict the holy people? They depict them with light around them, with halos.
It's true.
And we all have one, and we can all see it. Yes, the more enlightened among us will have, the people that allow more energy to flow through them will have larger light emanations around them. But be aware that we all have, to some extent, this field around us. Now, about 60 to 80% of your listener viewers will be able to see color within probably a couple of minutes.
Wow.
It also helps to get different subjects to look at because everybody's aura is so radically different. It's not like looking at a bunch of thumbprints. It's like looking at an elephant paw print on one and a coyote print on another.
All right, I can think of another way that you could do a superbly interesting controlled test, and that would be to gather together a group of people who see auras, right? Have one individual present themselves in any test manner you would suggest, and then have the people who have read the auras all go into different rooms and write down what they saw.
Art, I do that in every class that I teach.
You do?
Yes, I do.
And what are the...
First-time viewers, you will get 80 to 90, maybe 100% correlation in what people who are first-time viewers see when they see auras. If somebody's got a bright, large aura, maybe it's yellow or gold, people will write that down. Green, they'll see green. Blue, they'll see blue. There is a tremendous, and I do this, I even, the way I start my class is I take a piece of paper and I say, I'm going to write down my color, and I'm going to give it to this person sitting right in front of me, so you'll know that I'm not kidding you. I looked in the mirror before I came on, and this is the color I'm sporting today, folks. So when I show you how to see my aura, those of you who see color, and I start them at anybody see red? Anybody see orange? No. Anybody see yellow? You get one or two people. Anybody see green? Everybody puts up their hand, you know. And this is first-time viewers. And I say, okay, turn over the card. What's it say? And it'll say green/yellow.
Wow.
And it's just the way it works.
That's very impressive. I mean, people can try this with their family members at home.
Yes, exactly.
Give it a try yourself and prove it to yourself.
Give it a try. And if anybody out there listening can do it right now and wants to call in and tell us what you see, I'll bet you it's the most amazing thing when you first see it. I hate to say it's like you'll remember where you were when Kennedy was shot.
No, it's fine. No, I'm all for it. Let's do it. What is radio but one great experiment in my mind anyway. So you have described how it's done. Give us the capsule version again for those who just went, I'm paying attention now.
Okay.
Describe it one more time before the top of the hour.
Get somebody to stand in front of a plain white wall. Use ambient or offset lighting, not too bright. Get them to breathe deeply. Stand 18 inches in front of that white wall. And the viewer wants to stand 8 to 10 feet away.
Right.
Cut them out like a two-dimensional cardboard figure. Don't look at the person. Look past them. Check out the texture of the paint on the wall. And as they breathe deeply and rock gently from side to side, be aware that anywhere from a quarter inch to maybe 1 inch around their head and shoulder area, and that's the area you want to be looking. Look around their head and shoulder area. You'll see a lightish white, silver, or clear, you might see yellow or gold, envelope, halo, if you will, that surrounds their head and shoulder.
So we're not trying to do anything fancy right now. We're not trying to diagnose. We're not trying to do any of that. We're just trying to see the basic emanation. Is that correct?
Right. You're not even trying to see color. Now, 60% of you will see color. But if you're home alone and don't have anybody to look at, check it out in the mirror. If you've got a white background behind you or a clear wall behind you, as you look in the mirror, stand about 18 inches in front of that mirror and make sure that whatever's behind you is at least 2 feet behind you.
Mm-hmm.
And again, don't look at yourself. And that's tough to do when you're looking in the mirror because everybody's used to checking themselves out as they comb their hair, put on their makeup, or shave, or whatever.
You're sort of trying to defocus a little bit and lock out the actual subject in order to see what's around that subject.
Correct. And by focusing past the person, you change your focal length far enough that you'll notice that there is this fuzzy silver or whitish envelope that surrounds the body. And if you look past the head and shoulders, almost like a bust.
Mm-hmm.
If you just look from the top of the shoulders and the head area, you'll see it.
All right. Hold on, Mark. It is the top of the hour. So what I would suggest to the doubting Thomases and Thomasinas out there is to give it a try. Get somebody in your family and They may think you're totally whacked out, but give it a try and see if it works. This is something you don't have to wait for. You can actually try right now and report to us shortly. So we'll take a break so that as many of you as would like can give it a shot and report to us in the next hour as we continue with my guest. Mark will be right back. So will I. I'm Art Bell from an area near Dreamland. This is Dreamland.
To talk with Art Bell on Dreamland from the Kingdom of Nye. From east of the Rockies, dial 1-800-825-5033. West of the Rockies, including Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, and New Mexico, 1-800-618-8255. If you're a first-time caller to Dreamland, reach Art at area code 702-727-1222. This is Dreamland with Art Bell.
It is, and my guest is Mark Smith. If you have questions for him, those are the numbers, and we're about to jump into the phones this hour. We'll get back to Mark in a moment. We're talking about auras. Now, back to Mark Smith. And if you have tried the experiment during the break and would like to report what you found, we'd love to hear from you. If you have questions about auras or anything else we've discussed this night, we'd love to hear from you. And we're about to go to the phones. Just a couple of questions for Mark. Mark, let's see if I can get you in trouble.
Okay.
And then I'll try and sell a few books for you because you've made a lot of sense to me. First of all, do animals have auras? Are you able to see an enhanced aura around, say, a dog or a cat?
Dogs and cats are kind of tough subjects. When they're still enough so that you can actually look at the aura, their energy tends to drop, and it's a little bit more difficult to see. You can see the field. Seeing colors on animals is a little bit tougher.
Do they have more of an aura than my desk?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, any living thing has much more energy than your desk. In fact, one of the best things to do is look at the auras of plants. Interesting little thing. If you take a little dense shrubby plant like the bonsai plant, put it on a white tablecloth, give it some ambient lighting.
Right.
You look at the tablecloth, not at the shrub itself or the plant itself.
Right.
And as you look past it, you'll see this fuzzy chartreusey green envelope around it. You take a glass of red wine, put it next to the plant, and not white wine, not water, red wine, and in a thin-walled, glass, the aura of the plant will actually perk up a little bit, and the part of the plant's aura that's nearest to the glass of wine will actually expand and move toward the glass of wine.
Really?
Yes. You take a magnet and it's a little bar magnet or circular magnet from your refrigerator and put it near the aura of the plant, and it will literally completely dissolve the aura. You'll see the aura completely vanish. It completely...
All right. That's very interesting. I'll tell you where I was headed with this. If animals have auras, you said that auras in humans are a manifestation of soul, the fact that of our soul. So the question would be, does the presence of an aura in an animal indicate a soul?
There is a spiritual characteristic that is in every living organism. And the fact that the human organism is, at least as far as we know, the most complex and advanced bioenergy field on this planet, at least, again, that we know, it is a lot easier to see the aura around a human than it is around an animal. But it's also easier to see the aura around a cat than it is around your desk. Everything has an aura, but the the human aura is the easiest and most complex. And
so it's not a black and white answer, really. It's not a black and white thing. In other words, animals. For example, if you were to look at a monkey or a gorilla, which is said to have a higher level of awareness or intelligence, I'm not exactly sure the word I should use, would you see more of an aura as you move toward the top of the line, the food chain, the human being?
That's true.
It is true.
Yes, it is.
All right. Here's one more fact for you, and then we'll get to phones here in a second, folks. Good evening, Art. I have a friend who works in the media. She's attractive and bright, so naturally there are people who are attracted to her, but the attraction is more. The attraction frequently turns into obsession. Many people describe her as, quote, the light of their lives, end quote. And then, if they don't have enough of her time, they become upset and disturbed. Cliché, yes. But could her energy, or if you will, her aura, be multiplied by her frequent appearances on television? Jodie Foster, John Lennon. For people in the media, why does attraction become obsession? From Toronto, Canada.
Very interesting point, and I think it goes back to what we talked about earlier with the charisma thing. People both send and receive this energy, and I'm sure all of you out there have had the experience of energy vampires, whether they like it or not.
Oh, yes.
Some people literally live off of, they leech off of your energy.
Yes, sir.
And it is not uncommon you walk into any shopping mall and you're going to get energy depletion. It just happens.
I feel depleted every time I'm forced to shop, actually.
Yes. Well, probably for a variety of reasons. Depletion of pocketbooks, depletion of energy. I passed out in the store once during Christmas shopping because I just couldn't handle all the energy. It was back in high school before I knew what was really going on energetically. But you can actually protect yourself. There are meditations and visualizations you can go through that will actually at least greatly retard the ability of these so-called energy vampires to go out after you and again, consciously or subconsciously, drain your energy away. So the answer to your friend in Toronto there is, yes, being on TV and being in the public spotlight builds your charisma. I mean, you take on the energy, and the flip side of the energy vampire are the people who get all this adulation. You literally, it clings to you. It literally amplifies your own auric field.
Mark, can you see auras on television?
Very good point. In fact, in Toronto, we did it for the first time live on it was the Deanie Petty show. She's kind of the Oprah of Canada. And we got the camera guys to actually set up their cameras so that they had them against a white background. And she got up, I got up, and we pulled the person out of the audience. And you can see it if the lighting is right, and it's a very high-resolution video camera. It does not seem to come across on film, however, on like a Super VHS or a very high-resolution video camera. Yes, you can see it. In fact, there was a video done of me doing a lecture in a bookstore, a book signing.
Right.
And as I was working around the energy field of this woman, I bring a white screen with me, a slide screen, but the people are the slides. We bring people up from the audience, and everybody gets a chance to look at them. Well, this one lady was complaining of a cold, and I said, well, see if you can feel my energy as I pass my hands around but not touching you,
right?
Because I want to try to send you some energy. Well, and it's right there on the film. You can see an orange to yellow golden ball of energy coming out of my hand, not my forearm, which is also exposed. In other words, and I had this video analyzed at ComSat Labs here in Gaithersburg, Maryland, and they went down to the pixel level and they said, nope, that is not a video effect. That is actually light emanation coming out of your hand.
Oh boy. Oh boy, isn't that ever interesting?
So it is visible and it is recordable. You can get it on video.
All right. I would. We're going to go to the line, so everybody get ready. But I do want to ask this: your book, Auras, see them in only 60 seconds. I can guarantee by now you have fascinated enough people. They're going to want to read your book. So tell them how to get your book.
Well, you can go into any major bookstore. It's in Llewellyn. It's a Llewellyn publication. Or you can actually call up Llewellyn directly. They got a great 1-800 number. It's 1-800-THE-MOON, spelled out THEMOON, 1-800-THE-MOON, and you can order it directly from them. And the book goes into more detail about what the colors mean, what parts of the body they relate to, and it's all common sense.
Everybody should understand that what we have described tonight to help you see auras very quickly is a very simple, elementary test to show you that you can do it. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is. Very accurate.
And so the details are in the book.
Yeah, it took me 3 days when I first learned how to do it 20 years ago before I saw my first color. But once you learn how to see color, it's like riding a bicycle. You'll be able to do it at will whenever you want to do it. And it's a natural ability we all have. And what this book hopefully does, besides give you the ability to see it, is what you do with that knowledge once you get a hold of it. And 1-800-THE-MOON, and you can order the book. And it's the first book that I'm aware of that doesn't get into the mystical with it or get into the clairvoyant aspects of it. This is something everybody has. Everybody's got an aura, and everybody can see it. And it's something that it's an ability that I would love to see us be able to recapture. I think we've let it and other things that we are capable of atrophy over time. And as I was saying earlier, I believe that before there was any media, people were using the ability to see auras as a defense mechanism as well. I think when we were, more primitive in the hunter-gatherer situation, we used a lot more of our senses. Science tells us that 25,000 years ago, man's ability to smell was as acute as any dog's sense of smell is today. And look at how much we've lost in that regard. So, the ability to see auras is an ingrained, I almost hate to use the word God-given gift.
That's fine.
That we can.
Don't be afraid of that.
Okay, that we can use basically to understand much better our link to the divine. And as you get used to seeing it, you'll be able to tell in the mirror in the morning when you wake up whether or not you're about to get ill.
Well, now, that brings up a very good point. Is there a chance that you would wake up, sort of stagger in the morning way we all stagger to the mirror, take one look and say to hell with this and call in sick?
That is a very good possibility. When you're about to get ill, the illness will manifest itself in the energy field 24 hours to 3 days in advance of it actually hitting the body. There are some cancers that can be seen in the auric field for up to a year before they show up in medical tests.
Wow.
Lymphoma being chief among them. So it's definitely something from a health viewpoint that once you get used to doing it every day, women all over the country tell me that it really is very helpful for them as far as just color coordinating. There was this whole thing called Color Me Beautiful about 10 years ago where depending on your hair color, skin color, eye color, you were either a summer person or a winter person or a fall person, and you were supposed to wear colors accordingly. And I can't tell you the number of women that told me that didn't really work for them because it didn't take into account their most important color, which is their auric color. And when you learn to see that, you can actually surround yourself with colors that are harmonious to your true color, which is your auric color.
Now, what you discern in the simple test you gave us as the auric color, if somebody actually manages to see color, is not in any way influenced by the color of the garment they have on.
Color of clothing is unimportant. what the clothing is.
Well, that
made
destroys the argument of those who will say you're just mixing your peripheral vision and seeing a blur, and you're seeing some color left over from it. If that were true, then you would see a blurring in your peripheral vision of the color they were wearing, wouldn't you?
Yeah, the color has nothing to do with it. In fact, that's a test I also do in the classes I teach. I usually wear a neutral color, tan or a light, almost a straw-colored jacket. And if someone is wearing a really bright color when they come up to the front and we take a look at them, I will first of all, we'll take a look at them with their red or bright green or bright yellow shirt on. And 90% of the time, the color in the aura does not match the color that they're wearing. Certainly if they're wearing red, almost nobody has red in their aura unless they've got an illness. But anyway, I take the jacket then and drape it across the front of them so that it blocks out the color. And it does not change our perception of the color that they emanate.
All right. I need to go to the phones. First-time caller line, you're on the air with Mark Smith. Good evening.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Where are you, sir?
I'm calling from Reno.
Okay. Oh, indeed.
And my name is John.
Yes, John.
I'd like to ask a comment of your guest, Mr. Smith.
Yes, sir.
Back in my teens, I was in martial arts training, and my instructor taught us how to see auras, and I just wanted to comment that we were wearing white gis at the time, and, the colors were rainbow and silver colored and blue and everything else, so the color of the clothing had nothing to do with it.
Right.
The thing was, I was quite surprised a couple of years ago when I read in a scientific magazine that there was actual legitimate science behind this.
Oh, yes.
And that is that it deals with an orbit of the electron around the proton of atoms.
Right.
It actually extends out some 21 centimeters.
Yes.
And the writer of this article said that any solid object would have a field around it, and that living objects, since they're bioelectric, would have an energized field, and he said in quotes, dare I say, aura.
Correct. Oh, that's absolutely right.
So what do you think about that?
You're basically just reinforcing everything we talked about tonight. It is measurable. It is a field outside of the body or outside of any substance, but the bioelectrical energy that we have as humans is so complex that it gives you this rainbow effect in the colors. And science has, quote, discovered it now.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're sick, it's going to affect the electrical flow of your bioelectrical metabolism, and that's going to affect the field around you, and it's going to show up.
Absolutely. That's
there is actual, for all you skeptics out there, there is hard science behind what he's talking about.
All right. Caller, I really appreciate it. Thank you. And Mark, hold on. We're at the bottom of the hour. And again, his book, which seems to me like a book I'm going to have to read, is, I bet, one you're going to have to read, too. It's called Auras. See them in only 60 seconds. And you can get it by calling 24 hours a day. Or you can get it nationwide in bookstores, but otherwise, 24 hours a day, you can call 1-800-THE-MOON. That's a great number, 1-800-THE-MOON, and order it. I'm Art Bell from an area near Dreamland. This is Dreamland.
Talk with Art Bell on Dreamland from the Kingdom of Nye. East of the Rockies, dial 1-800-825-5033. West of the Rockies, 1-800-618-8255, including Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, and New Mexico. First-time callers may reach Art at area code 702-727-1222. Or call Art on the wildcard line at area code 702-727-1295. Now again, here's Art Bell.
Well, once again, here I am. Some remarkable results coming in. Remarkable. I'll read you one in a moment. From a geologist I know, and you probably know too, named Jim Birkeland. All right. My guest is Mark Smith, and the reaction to him is very positive. There is a fellow that I interview from time to time, an expert, Jim Birkeland, who, as a matter of fact, has been the only official geologist for a California county in the history of California counties. And he writes the following to you, Mark. Feeling a bit foolish. I mean, he's a geologist, after all. I tried the aura bit in front of the bathroom mirror. Within 30 seconds, I saw my aura bordering my head and shoulders, but not around a can of hairspray that I held next to my head. The color was lemon yellow. It was about an inch wide, but something bulged out to about 6 inches. Weird. Signed, geologist Jim Birkeland. Is that typical?
Yeah, typically the aura around the body does not stay either tremendously stationary or uniform. Some people actually have geometric shapes. Your geologist friend, maybe because he works with stones, has this in his aura. I don't know, I'm kind of kidding there.
Sure.
But, you will notice on some people that they actually have almost like dunce caps on their head. It's almost like the aura goes up to a point a foot over their head.
Really?
Some people have almost like a ball of energy, if you will. Sounds like this is what your friend has here. It's kind of almost like a ball of energy or a lava lamp kind of excursion. It's nothing to be worried about. It's part of your particular energy field, and it does have a plasma-y kind of look to it. So it does change shape somewhat. And as I say, some people do have geometric shapes, but that color that he noted, that's the etheric aura color. And, most people have a lemony yellow to golden color on the area that's 1 inch around their head and shoulder area. So he saw the etheric aura right off the bat, and he got the color exactly right.
All right, here's a strange but practical question for Mark. Then I promise I'll go back to the lines here. It is as follows from Kent. Can an aura viewer using Mark Smith's technique learn to see if someone has an STD, sexually transmitted disease like AIDS or herpes? If the answer is a yes, then he's got a huge singles market waiting out there.
I wish I could tell you that it was that exact of a science. It is not. What you can tell is if there's a systemic problem like AIDS, you will see a radically diminished energy field around the person. You may actually see holes in it, where Jim Birkeland had a complete line around him, and it looked like maybe a kind of a emanation going out. People who have like a cancer or a major systemic problem, it goes in. It kind of collapses. There will be holes in the auric field.
So you wouldn't be able to do specific diagnosis like that?
Not by just looking at it, but you can by feeling the aura with your hand. That's my next book. Auras. Feel them in just 60 seconds.
A logical follow-through.
I think so, but that's really where I want to take this ultimately, is to the point where you can first see the auric field, then feel it, and that's how you do the healing, is by literally running your hands through the auric field, feeling where there is dis-ease, and after doing 4 basic exercises that I teach you in this book, the book coming up, you'll be able to, it's like flipping a light switch. You can change the polarity in the energy field of the person you're working on, and the body is then allowed to heal itself.
All right, back to the phones. Wildcard line, you're on the air with Mark Smith. Good evening. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, ma'am, you're on the air. Where are you?
I'm calling from El Paso, Texas.
All right, go right ahead.
After 20 years being away from home, I went back to my hometown and went to the cemetery to visit my grandparents and my father and uncles that were buried there.
Sure.
And I got very sentimental, and after praying and trying to get in touch with my grandparents, I took a picture to take back a memento with me. It was not at the beginning of the roll or at the end of the roll, but in the middle of the roll. And I took several pictures of the tombstone. There's a big cross with all their names and dates of birth and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
When I had the picture developed, only one of the pictures, okay, all the other pictures came out perfectly. There was like a tower of light. It's like a white flame. It was bigger at the bottom, and it went narrow up like in a smoke, kind of like a Christmas tree.
I was going to ask, was it triangular in shape? You say it was triangular?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, but it was really narrow, okay? Not so much like triangle, but, really narrow and tall.
And this was over a tombstone?
Yeah. I took it to a spiritualist, and she couldn't believe what she was seeing. She told me that was called the Tower of Light, that this was like she has never seen anything. This is something that you see a picture of a picture, not like a real picture that she was holding in her hand.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Mark, I guess it's worth asking, and that is, there are, after all, pretty substantial reports of ghosts, poltergeists, lingering remnants of either a soul trapped on Earth, to use your earlier term, or a sort of a horrible, repetitive echo of what was. It's really hard to say, but there are certainly lots of indications that there are people who seem to leave behind an echo on Earth, one that is occasionally observed by people or perhaps even photographed. You want to venture into that territory at all?
I got to tell you that I was an absolute, complete disbeliever in any of this stuff until, as I was saying at the very beginning of the show, I watched my mother die. And I got to tell you that after she passed on, and by the way, my sister lives out there in El Paso where your caller just called from, so I hope my sister's listening here. But the long and the short of it is, she came to visit me twice after she died, and what I felt with my mother was I could smell her when she came into the room. She was actually in my car once when I was driving, and that was very freaky. And another time in my bedroom, and it was just like she was in the room and trying to comfort me before the funeral. And she had always asked me to play for her funeral, and at the funeral mass. And I firmly believe that she stuck around just to see if I would play this song. And at the end of the song, at the end of the ceremony, I kind of banged on the guitar 3 times, because in primitive cultures, you release the spirit from the world by hitting drums that have little bells attached to it. Mm-hmm. And I did this technique on the guitar called timbre, playing a harmonic, and it was kind of a high-pitched sound along with the drum sound. And something kind of jerked my head and made me look over at the casket. And as I finished playing the song and hit those last 3 notes on the guitar, I got to tell you, Art, I saw her leave, and she was not at the gravesite. It was really like she stuck around to see if I'd really play the tune for her, and I got no sensation of her being there at all. And when my father died, I got no sensation of him being there at all. I mean, when he left, he was gone.
Gone, huh?
But with Mama, she definitely was hanging around. And even when she died, I felt her presence in the room, at the top of the room, the wax effigy that was sitting in front of me, that was her body. Obviously, she had departed it, but I got this sense that she was very confused and disoriented and still in the room. And I literally spoke to her, because having been out of body myself 7 times, sure. I knew where she would be hanging out, so to speak. And I said it was okay, she could leave now. And I got to tell you, this was not anything that would have been believable to me before now, and so your caller, I think, was very fortunate and lucky to be able to get on film a very, and I don't know how rare an occurrence it is, but there are people that study this and made lifetime studies. Joe Slate, for one, he's another Llewellyn author, but apparitional experiences are probably a lot more common than people would want to.
Perhaps you could send me a fax and put me in touch with Mr. Slate, and I'll schedule Mr. Slate for a guest.
He's an amazing guy, and you'll love talking to him.
All right. East of the Rockies, you're on the air with Mark Smith. Good morning, or evening, or whatever it is.
Hello, Art.
Hi there. Where are you?
Yes, my name is Jack. I'm in Florida.
Jack, you're going to have to yell at us a little. You're not too strong. Go right ahead.
Okay, I got a question. Well, for you and your guest, Mr. Smith, about a Dr. Valerie Hunt. If you have ever interviewed her, and if Mark Smith is.
I don't believe I have interviewed her. Mark, do you know of Dr. Valerie?
I do know the name, and if I'm not mistaken, is she not part of? It's like, I don't want to say the Skeptical Inquirer, but isn't she part of a group of doctors that do research into claims of paranormal things with alternative medicine?
Right. She's a retired professor from UCLA.
Right.
And since she's retired, she's doing research now into the energy fields.
Right.
And she has a book out that's Infinite Minds, Science of Human Vibration and Consciousness.
Right.
And anyway, I didn't know if you might be familiar with her and some of her research. She's actually got the scientific proof of the energy fields, like the aura and some of the experiments you talked about.
Well, yes, I think that that's been pretty well documented in the first portion of this program. That is that whatever this is, it is real. It's an energy field that surrounds you, and it can be measured.
Yeah, I think Valerie's claim to fame was that she started off skeptically and researched this, and in her book she does provide kind of surprising scientific evidence that actually supports a claim she was expecting to refute, if I'm not mistaken.
Here's somebody who simply says, Art, I've been listening quietly, and then in giant letters, it works. And it says, you must defocus.
Yes.
Sounds right?
Yes, exactly right. The harder you look at it, the less you'll see. Relax and let your eyes go past the image of whatever it is you're looking at, be it, animal, vegetable, or mineral, but particularly in humans. Just let your eyes continue to drift past the head and shoulder area, and don't try too hard to see it. And as you relax, all of a sudden, you're going to see emanations all over the place.
All right. West of the Rockies, you are on the air with Mark Smith. Hello.
Hi, I'm calling from Albuquerque.
Yes, ma'am.
And I had seen auras that I thought it was my eyesight that was going bad or something.
Uh-huh.
So I have a bright red shirt on tonight, and I went to the mirror, and I saw green right along my head and shoulders.
Pretty Christmassy.
Yeah. And then one time, I was deep in prayer, very quiet, and I felt a lot of heat around me. And after a while, I said, why am I feeling so much heat? I didn't know if there was a fire around, and I wasn't aware of it. And I saw I opened my eyes, and I saw a lot of white around me. Deep white, just very, very white. But tonight I saw green.
Ma'am, are you a nurse?
No.
Do you do any healing work?
Well, yes, kind of. I mean, I would pray for people,
Right.
And several people have come out of comas and things like that, but I didn't know if it was a fluke or what.
Green is the healer color.
Oh.
And when you do healing, and this is universal in any culture or any healing tradition, you get extremely warm.
Oh, yeah, I was. It was like I was burning,
Yes. And when you are opening up as a conduit for this energy, whether it's through bioenergy therapy, therapeutic touch, or prayer, you will, I mean, it's kind of like the current flowing through the wire. You know, the wire gets hot.
All right, Mark, I want to follow up on that. I understand that, and I've heard that of healing, that there's an actual heat that develops. And in some cases, I think, has even been measured. But are you the conduit for that energy or the source of the energy?
I like to look at it in terms of conduit because I think that you are able to, if you can open up to it, because it's all around us, Art. I mean, it's everywhere. Mm-hmm. And if you allow yourself to be open and untainted, so to speak, in other words, the more open the aperture, literally, the less friction there is as the energy passes through. There's always going to be that heat aspect, but when you have an extreme amount of heat, that means you're resisting it somewhat. But to answer your question, I think that it's both. I think that you have to have some level of this energy within yourself. We all do. And everybody has a different, individual and unique amount. But you also let the overall kind of global energy, if you will, or cosmic universal energy flow through you. And what that does is it amplifies your own energy that you have, and that's why your hands get hot, and that's why you're able to do the healing. So it's both. You have the energy, you link up to it, you open up to it, and as it flows through you, it amplifies like quantumly over what your own power would be.
That's remarkable. Remarkable. Mark, this has been a remarkable 2.5 hours with you, and I have a feeling that we could have done 10 more hours before ever running out of material, period.
Well,
so I'm going to have you back on again.
Art, that'd be a pleasure. You're a great interviewer, and it's been wonderful talking to you. And your listeners are great. We had great people.
The lines are loaded. I mean, we just missed 1 million people, of course. The book is Auras. See them in only 60 seconds, and it's available nationwide in bookstores. Or it is a 24-hour number, right?
I believe it is.
The number to order it is 1-800-THE-MOON. Now, that is not a hard number to remember. That's 1-800-THE-MOON. Mark, thank you so very much.
My pleasure, Art.
Take care, my friend. All right, that's it, folks, for Dreamland. I'm sorry there's not more time. Obviously, we could have developed this and just kept going for hour upon hour. So I promise you we will have Mark Smith back. In the meantime, it has been a pleasure. We'll be here Monday night, Tuesday morning with Coast to Coast AM. I'm Art Bell. Till next we meet, let us now return your radio to the mundane. Good night.
This has been Dreamland, a program dedicated to an examination of areas in the human experience not easily nor neatly put in a box. Things seen at the edge of vision, awakening a part of the mind as yet not mapped. Yet things every bit as real as the air we breathe but don't see. Please join us again next week at this time for Dreamland.